In this video, we'll look at 10 signs that indicate things are about to get really bad. Whether your plan is to head out of town to a safer place or enact certain protocols to hunker down in place to ensure you and your family's safety is not compromised, these 10 signs will alert you that things are probably about to get really bad. This video is supported by ensue. Ensue produces the Kodiak solar generator, which I've reviewed on the channel before. It's a lightweight device that packs a large punch that can power critical devices like your refrigerator, phones, and other important electrical devices if the grid goes down. Check out the link in the description section below to learn more and use coupon code CITYPREPPING for 20% off your purchase on the energytech.com website. We'll cover 10 signs you should be watching for that will indicate things are about to get really bad. Disasters can be regional or national in their impact. For example, an event in New York City may not have an immediate impact on me personally, on the other side of the country living in Southern California, but larger events like the military overthrowing the government would have ramifications for all of the population. If any time during the video you have any feedback or feel I missed any points, please post those in the comments section below. So let's jump into discussing the 10 signs you should be watching for. And let me start off by saying that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to this discussion, but these 10 points will definitely give you a general framework to help guide you. Number 1. When you see normal people losing it. What do I mean? An example of this would be violence at a supermarket in a typically suburban neighborhood due to things like high food prices or a lack of food even being available. We've all seen the videos of grocery stores before a storm hits and seen people rush to get water and food and the chaos that ensues, especially when supplies are running low. These types of videos are common before and after things like a hurricane, but during times where there's not an impending storm or natural disaster, you're seeing this type of occurrence, you should be concerned. There's a fascinating article I'll provide a link to in the description section below detailing this particular phenomenon. This article is entitled "The Math That Predicted the Revolution Sweeping the Globe Right Now." It shares a model that theorists built who predicted the Arab Spring and unrest in Bosnia, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Thailand. After studying the revolutions, unrest, and riots in these countries, these particular theorists found a common thread between these scenarios, which was high global food prices. While there are many other factors that led to these type of events, through this model, these theorists are able to predict unrest or a collapse in a society. At the current pace of developing nations around the world, the ability to produce food at the level required to sustain a growing population by 2050 is not viable according to many studies, leading many scientists to sound the alarm. While we currently have a strong food production set up in the United States, if enough natural and man-made events occur in conjunction like the 1930s during the Dust Bowl, not only would Americans be impacted, but the rest of the world that depends on our food production. If we see fights and riots happening in supermarkets becoming a pattern in our country, this should be a strong indicator that national unrest may follow shortly behind. Number 2, loss of electricity on a regional scale for more than 1 week. At the moment, the electrical infrastructure in the United States is in desperate need of updating, but the cost to do so is extremely high. At a time in our nation's economy where we're in skyrocketing debt, updates to our nation's infrastructure are taking a back seat. Other potential external threats like EMPs, while not highly probable, also represent a problem that could be catastrophic. Government studies have estimated that 90% of the population in the United States would die without electricity within the first 12 to 24 months. When there's no electricity, there's no water, food, climate control, modern medicine, and of course security would be a big problem with civil unrest. If you see the grid go down for longer than a week, you can expect chaos to ensue as people get desperate, especially in high-density population areas. Number 3 is a media blackout. Media blackout refers to the censorship of news related to a certain topic, specifically in mass media, for any reason. A media blackout may be voluntary or may in some countries be enforced by the government or state. At the moment, we enjoy freedom of speech guaranteed by the First Amendment, but in some countries, the population does not enjoy this liberty. While the current political climate is becoming more and more divisive in the United States, having the ability to freely speak is more critical than ever. When the government attempts to silence those who would speak against them, the people should be concerned. We're currently seeing this in our own country with certain news outlets being labeled as fake news by one political party. But what many fail to recognize is that this type of political posturing is a double-edged sword. If an opposing political party takes control in the next election cycle, and they decide they do not like an outlet that opposes them, they can just as easily try and silence them. Once a party sets this as a norm, they can set a trap for themselves in the future. If you see the government attempt to shut down and silence news sources that are not in line with their policies, this will eventually lead to authoritarianism. In countries where this is already implemented, personal freedoms are secondary to the government's control. personal freedoms will be destroyed, and individuals' rights are extinguished. For most of us in the United States, this would constitute an SHTF scenario, especially those of us that are willing to die to defend our personal freedoms at all costs. Number 4, when isolating parts of society is key to fixing whatever is wrong. Let me give you an example, a pandemic. Imagine turning on the news to find a part of the country is now being locked down due to a quickly spreading illness. In a scenario like this, things like martial law, which we'll discuss a little more momentarily, could be implemented to keep the disease from spreading. In this particular scenario, you're now at the mercy of the government and potentially disease if you're not able to escape. I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in microbiology, and while studying there over 20 years ago, this potential threat of a superbug was on the forefront of many scientists' minds as various strains of infectious diseases were becoming more and more resistant to medicine. As mentioned in point number 3, a media blackout could be implemented to prevent panic. But with the rise of social media, it would be very hard to stop information like this from being spread, even if the primary media was blacked out. Number 5, the stock market takes a dive of 10% in a single day and they halt trading the next day. Here's a quick graphic of the largest drops in a single day in the stock market by percentage. As you can see, most of these dates were followed shortly thereafter by major economic downturns in our country. While the current U.S. economy stock market is very high, the potential for fallout is ever present. If you see a sharp drop in the stock market with the government attempting to stop the fallout by halting the trading the next day, this should be a warning sign to brace yourself for a potential catastrophe that would result. The stock market crash in 2008 was a wake-up call to many in the United States, and subsequently around the rest of the world for that matter. We narrowly dodged a complete collapse, but have since been straddled with an enormous debt when the taxpayers had to bail out the banks. If the economy does tank, having commodities on hand like food in large amounts will enable you to weather the storm. Number 6, you are not allowed to remove money from your bank, or you're limited to how much you can withdraw. Like the previous point number 5, when this happens, it's a sign that the economy is on the verge of collapse, or at a minimum, big problems are coming down the pipe. While things like the FDIC are in place to help ensure American confidence in the banking system, the reality is that the government cannot back the entire country's bank accounts. Having cash in a secure location in your home is a smart backup plan for at least the first week after a collapse. After a week, or maybe even potentially sooner, when stores realize the system may not come back up anytime soon, store owners and businesses may demand real tangible items for bartering instead of cash. But at least cash might allow you to purchase a few important items you may need to quickly add to your preps in the first few days. Number 7, when you know something acute is coming, like a hurricane. These type of disasters are a bit more obvious compared to the other points we've discussed in this video, but are just as serious. When you're being warned by the news outlets, the local and state municipalities that a dangerous storm is approaching that could obliterate your area, it's best to make your decision whether to leave or quite literally weather the storm. Living in Southern California, we're always painfully aware of the potential threats that could be catastrophic, like earthquakes and fires. As a result, I've gone to great lengths to ensure I'm as ready as I can be. Number 8 is obvious government lies. Now, this one's a bit more difficult to define because we're now in a day and age where people believe in just about any conspiracy theory. So when it comes to discerning the truth, it becomes increasingly difficult. While I'm not of the opinion that everything we're told is 100% true, I also do not believe that everything is a conspiracy because what is being said does not align with my own personal and political views. As mentioned earlier, the term fake news is being used heavily to try and discredit news outlets that may present information that exposes politicians, which has caused some to completely distrust various media outlets entirely. While it's easy to observe that news outlets bend information to their own political leaning, the fact remains that verifiable information cannot be denied simply because it does not line up with your own worldview. I always read the comments on my videos and I've been amazed at how many people post information in the comments section that is just simply not true in the least bit. They'll often misquote or post information about a politician they disagree with. When things don't sound right, I'll often go and research it myself, and am surprised at how badly they misrepresented the information. If you can't stand back and try to listen to information you may not agree with that challenges your own beliefs, you'll quickly succumb to confirmation bias and you'll believe in virtually anything told to you as long as it comes from the source of your own political persuasion. The problem with this scenario is that when government officials you voted for lied, you'll gloss over this lie simply because you like the individual or the political party they're affiliated with. I'd like to believe we hold our politicians to a higher standard and will not compromise simply because we do not like an opposing candidate's views. If we can't do this, then we'll fall for lies every time. On a daily basis, I try and challenge myself with reading news from across various outlets. I realize different news outlets have their own agenda, but I'll do my best and try to listen to what they say and sift through and try to find the truth. As a result, I've learned how to be a more critical thinker, no matter who the outlet is, whether conservative or liberal. Even if the information goes against what I believe, I try to dig deeper to see if what they're saying is simply upsetting me because of a deeply held belief I have, or try and determine whether the information is categorically false. When you push yourself to look at information critically, it helps a lot with building an internal BS meter. This comes in handy when politicians try to bend the truth. I wouldn't say I become cynical, but rather skeptical. When lies become the new baseline for the government, you should be concerned of what may come next. Number 9 is first responders, infrastructure workers, and healthcare workers not showing up for work. We hold first responders in high regards in our society, and rightfully so for the service they provide our community. But you have to remember that they are regular people, many with families. When they see things coming down the pipe, they're of course going to do all they can to make sure their family is taken care of, and rightfully so. But if they're no longer showing up, you know things are about to get really bad. When the police are no longer available to provide help and medical staff do not make it to the hospital, you'll need to have a plan in place to take care of yourself and your family. This is why security and medical skills and equipment are critical. Number 10, martial law. By the time martial law has been enacted, you're usually in a full-blown SHTF scenario. When the government has to step in and take control of a situation, it's because things have gone pretty bad. For those that are planning on bugging out in a SHTF scenario, this is a good time to get out of Dodge. For those that are planning on hunkering down in their residence, it's best to avoid getting out in public. Hopefully this video will provide you with enough information to make a decision when things are about to head south. If you have any thoughts or feedback, please post those in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please click on the like button, share on social media, or subscribe. As always, be safe out there.